So who was Warren Zevon? Well, he was this total original, a rock and roll gunslinger, but with a piano, a cynic, but also a romantic, with this wicked, wicked sense of humor. But his story, it's so much more than just a bunch of hard-boiled rock songs. All right, let's get into it.
Enjoy every sandwich. That became his final, famous piece of wisdom. But where did something so simple, so powerful come from? To really get it, you've got to understand the incredibly complicated, chaotic, and brilliant life that led him to that one simple truth.
Okay, so for most people, when you hear the name Warren Zevon, you probably think of one thing. A guy howling at the moon, right? Somewhere in a swanky London neighborhood.
Yep, you know it. That piano riff, that's the one. It's from Werewolves of London, of course. It's just one of those hooks that's totally unforgettable. The kind that just burrows into your brain for days, and you know what? It was his only top 40 hit, but boy, did it make him a star.
So, the album Excitable Boy was a huge hit, no doubt about it. It went platinum, hit number 8 on the charts, the whole shebang. But here's the crazy part. That one song, that one huge pop culture moment, it barely, and I mean barely, scratches the surface of who this guy really was. We're talking about an artist that guys like Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan looked up to. They called him a true songwriter's songwriter. All right, let's really dig in now. To get Zevon, you have to look at the world he built with his music. He wasn't just writing songs, you see. He was basically writing these gritty little short stories. And they were filled with characters you probably crossed the street to avoid. But man, you just couldn't stop listening to their stories. I mean, look at this cast of characters. His songs are like a who's who of society's misfits. You've got heroin addicts and Carmelita, a headless mercenary out for revenge and Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, and get this, a weirdly cheerful psychopath in the song Excitable Boy. It's this whole universe built on literary grit and some seriously dark, dark humor.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. The shit has hit the fan. I mean, come on, that line is pure Zevon. It's like a whole movie in a single sentence. It's desperate, it's hilarious, it's just so cool. It makes perfect sense that his favorite writers were guys like Hunter S. Thompson. He was basically a pulp novelist who just happened to have a killer rock and roll band.
And this is where things get really interesting, because the line between his art and his life got, well, pretty blurry. A lot of those wild, self-destructive characters in his songs, that was kind of him. There's this famous Rolling Stone article from '81 that talks about an intervention where his friends told him about all this violent stuff he'd done during alcoholic blackouts. And the chilling part? He couldn't remember a single bit of it, just horrified. But then, you put him on a stage, all that chaos, he somehow turned it into something absolutely electrifying.
And just look at this album cover. This is for his live album, Stand in the Fire, and it just says it all, doesn't it? It captures that energy perfectly. See, that wasn't an act up there. It wasn't some persona. He performed exactly how he lived, completely raw, totally hard-edged, and just on fire.
So Zevon famously lived by the motto, "I'll sleep when I'm dead." And he meant it. For decades, the man just burned the candle at both ends, relentlessly. But then, in 2002, that lifestyle, it finally caught up to him. And it happened in the most brutal way you can imagine.
Here's the thing. Zevon was terrified of doctors, like a full-blown phobia. He hadn't been to see one in 20 years. He later called it, in his typical dry way, a tactical error. So when he was finally forced to go in because he was short of breath, the news he got, it was the absolute worst-case scenario.
The diagnosis came in August of 2002, mesothelioma. It's a rare, super aggressive cancer, and the prognosis was just brutal. They told him he had a few months to live. That's it.
And here's where it gets kinda spooky. Just 2 years before all this, Zevon had released a song called My Shit's Fucked Up. The whole song is about a guy getting bad news from his doctor. It was this bizarre, accidental foreshadowing, his own dark art coming to life in the most tragic way.
So what do you do when you get news like that, when you're staring your own death in the face? Well, if you're Warren Zevon, you do the only thing you know how to do. You get to work. And that final year of his life, it ended up being his most public, his most moving, and honestly, one of his most creative.
Think about this. Instead of hiding away, he jumped right back into the studio to record one last album. He went on The Late Show with David Letterman and was the only guest for the whole hour, which never happens. He even managed to outlive his original prognosis by 7 months, long enough to meet his brand new twin grandchildren. The man lived right up until the very end.
He made a choice. He turned down any medical treatments that would make him too weak or sick to make music. His priority was the album. And you know what happened? His friends, a literal who's who of rock and roll royalty, they all showed up. Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, Jackson Browne, the list goes on. They all came to help him finish his final statement. Those recording sessions for his album, The Wind, they weren't just about making music. They were about a lifetime of friendship.
So back to that final Letterman appearance. His friend and biggest fan, David Letterman, asks him a really tough question. What has all this taught you about life and death? And Zevon's answer? It wasn't some grand philosophical speech. It was simple. It was profound. It became his legacy. He just said, "You're reminded to enjoy every sandwich."
But the really emotional moment happened after the camera stopped rolling. Back in the dressing room, Zevon quietly packed up his guitar, and he just handed it to Letterman. He said, "Take good care of this for me." And Letterman, who had been this rock for the entire hour on TV, he just lost it, completely broke down and cried. It was this incredibly human, final gift.
Warren Zevon passed away in September of 2003, only 2 weeks after The Wind was released. But like with all the truly great artists, right? His death wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot.
After he was gone, the recognition just poured in. That final album, it won 2 Grammys. A huge tribute album came out. And just recently in 2023, after years and years of his fans pushing for it, he was finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's kind of bittersweet, right? All the recognition he wanted so badly in life finally came flooding in after he was gone.
But the awards are one thing. It's the stories from his friends that really tell you who he was. His friend, the writer Mitch Albom, said he wasn't really that cynical, tough guy persona. Underneath it all, he was gentle and smart and even hopeful. It's such a great reminder that behind all those wild characters he wrote about, there was this deeply human, even romantic soul.
So what do we take away from a life like that? In the end, his story really leaves us with this big question. He stared death right in the face, and what did he choose to do? He chose to create. He chose to sing. And he chose to remind all of us to pay attention to the small, beautiful moments that fly by. To, enjoy every sandwich.